Hey everybody, so I'm going to go over some mold prepping just before you make the board. So we're going to modify, this is a split Glock 22. So we're going to modify the mold in this video, and I'll show you how I do it. And you know, some people have concerns about air bubbles and whatnot. You know, this has a big old nasty air bubble right there, but it's an air bubble. It's inevitable. I do everything I can to get rid of them, but it's a resin mold, so you can't really get rid of them. So we're gonna prep this one up. All right, so we've got those notches cut out. They look pretty squared up. So now we're going to measure and cut one of these. You know, it's just a 1/2 inch HDPE. It stands off just a tad taller than the slide, so it works really well for that offset. All right, so I got that piece cut. It's a little shallow that I don't want, so I'm going to have to put something underneath it to stand it up a little bit taller. It's pretty flush. I want it about right there. So I have to shim it with something, but I'll do that later. Right now, I like to use soft loops, so I'm going to set this part up with I need to mill all of this area down to about here or so. So I need to make all of this flat and flush. I'm going to do that on the drill press, which is over there, and an end mill bit, and make all of this flush and remove all this material. Don't be afraid to do this. And then I'm going to put in other stuff. I'm going to add in this piece of acrylic. I'm not sure how thick it is, but I'm going to start my bit and mill to the slide depth. So this is going to stand off, you know, about that much. So not much, because I'm going to add some other blockouts. But I'm just prepping everything. This is called mold prep. Okay, so I just made these. These are the blockouts for the screw posts, and I have to figure my height and where I want to place them, you know, because you know, the height of the holster, where it's going to sit on the body. So we get our ruler, and this is our belt. So we put our belt on, and this one's going to be set up for a appendix and or strong side. So we need to measure it for strong side. So if we level out our belt, and depending on what degree we want that holster to sit, traditionally, of course, sitting strong side 15 degrees. That's a good draw stroke or angle. And then we just position our height. You know, how high do we want that holster sticking out? And then we'll draw a line where we want that to be. So, of course, this is where your finger's going when you get in your grip. So, of course, you don't want that too high. You don't want to cover that grip. You want it down enough that an average person can fit their finger right inside that groove, because that's what they're going to be grabbing. They don't want to grab the holster, they don't want to grab the belt, they don't want to grab anything but the gun. So we want it about right here. And you can measure out on your desk or your table or whatever you got going on, you know, an angle, a true angle, but you know, I'm going to eyeball this and say that looks pretty close to 15 degrees. So then I'm going to draw a line, and this is my angle right there. So when I set this up, I want the mid to sit right in there. So this is going to be free floating on top over the trigger. So we're going to have to fill all that in, but I'll show you guys that in a little while. So that's where I want them to sit. So I need to flush and have this something, you know, have this, give it a place to rest. So we're gonna have to mill all of this because it's got contours and everything, so we're gonna have to mill all of that flush and then add this on there and then fill in underneath where it's affecting over the trigger, so this has a nice flat spot to sit. So let me go do that. Alright, so I got my layout drawn on here. I've got where these are gonna sit. So from there, with that knowledge, I know what to cut off from the back side. It's gonna be a right-handed, so I'm gonna cut a lot of this off and cut some of this off here, the grip, so I can sand it smooth and make a slope, so when I press the Kydex it's not going to get stuck. There's nothing for it to wrap up underneath and get the mold stuck inside the Kydex. So I have it marked off what I'm going to remove, what I'm going to cut off. So I'm going to go cut what I can off so I don't have to mill as much. And I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. So when working with the drill press and milling this down, if you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it. It can jump on you and you can catch your fingers. Make sure you keep all your fingers clean and clear. Wear gloves if you have to, but if you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it. It can grab and throw it around quite a bit. I've done quite a few of these, so I've got some experience points on me. So I'm comfortable doing it. But if you're not, don't do it. So at this point, I've got my pieces. They're all cut. Everything's set up the way I want them to be. At this point, it's ready to be glued, so I can glue this acrylic piece down to the mold and get that secure, and then glue these on where I have them marked to accommodate for my angle and my different ride heights, so I can go a little deeper, shallow. I can go appendix in 2 settings, 3 settings on strong side. So that's ready. It's ready for MOS, and glue these down, glue this down and these down, and then I can water weld, and that'll take, I like to give it a 24-hour cure or overnight cure for that stuff. It's a lot easier to sand when it's been set overnight. So I'm going to glue these down, pull out the water weld, and get that going. Alright, so we got the this stuff glued on, so it's on there. And of course we have this cavity up under here, so that's got to be filled in with the water weld. And then everywhere else that I want to fill in the water weld, I'm going to fill it in. So let's do that. Okay, so we got the well, went to the store. Water weld that I had, I don't know, was hard as a rock. So I went to the store and I got some of this stuff, steel stick. They were out of water weld, so I picked this up instead. It was actually about $1.50 cheaper, and this stuff was pretty good. It cured really quick. Water weld I usually have to leave overnight before it becomes, sandable. But this stuff was, after about 20 minutes, I was able to sand it. And, it matches the color of the QLH molds, but let's see if we can get, it was it's smooth and filled in real quick, cured real quick, and so everything's now filled in and sanded. So this is what the board is gonna, or the mold is gonna look like, and then I mount it to a board, and that'll be in another video. So everything is now prepped, everything is done. You know, I got the underside of this filled in. I'm gonna have to take care of that. I don't want that, but you know, sanded smooth and everything like that, so it has a nice rest. So when you press it, that it's not going to just sink in and grab. Everything is just, you know, smooth. Got it down to about 380 on the sandpaper, so it's pretty darn smooth. That is how you prep a QLH mold. You can prep it however you want, but this is how I do it. You know, this one's going to be set up for an RMR, so my cut line's going to be, you know, down in here and then come back up for the sweat shield. This is the Glock 22, ready to go on a board.